Good morning, everyone. This is Dawn with Classy Designs by Dawn, and today's tutorial is for my pattern, the Navigator bag. Lots of nice storage, nice deep zipper pockets. There are two separate lining compartments on the main interior. If you have some cute decorative turn locks, this is a magnetic, nice big magnetic snap. I used the round O-rings since this was nice, cute round magnetic lock. Domestic friendly, lots of storage, good size, but not too big. The front flap is optional. There's a slip pocket under here. You can leave the front flap off if you so desired, but it's all finished and would look just fine without the front flap. The front flap is the most undomestic friendly part of the whole bag. So if your machine will not handle layers, because right here where we have our front pocket stitched, the front flap stitched, and then we're going to do the pocket lining and the band. That spot right here and here and get a little thick. So read through the pattern first. I always suggest that. And it is always important to know where the pattern is going and why the pattern calls for certain things. You can enlarge the front flap as well, depending on your hardware. I know there's some great hardware out there nowadays that they're huge pieces that for statement pieces. You can do an over the edge. You can do just a simple cam stamp, stud style, magnetic snap. This is a great place to just make your personal statement, and of course your hardware and whatnot. So let's get started. Okay, I have prepared all my pieces. The lining pieces are where we're going to start today. We've got some markings on them. Corners are already cut on the main lining pieces, and stabilizers are applied as called for. I am using a cotton canvas for my lining pieces, so some of my lining pieces actually do not have SF101 on them, like my pockets here, but my main lining does, just for the structure needed. I am going to be doing the front flap to show how that works, but I'm going to be just simply doing a basic hidden or not, just a little stud style magnetic snap. So let's get started. We are going to start with our interior zipper pocket. So I need one lining piece, and our overlay and our interior zipper pocket lining. Okay, so first off, we need some DST. I am a fan of the DST. It just makes for a second set of hands. Stickier the better, of course. Sometimes you don't get that option. So simply applying 2 long strips. Just like that. Now, do not put stabilizer on my zipper overlays, but I do have a couple of vinyls that do tend to feel a little bit stretchy. So by all means, if you have a stretchy vinyl, you definitely want to consider putting a little bit of stabilizer. And in all reality, the DST works somewhat as a stabilizer. So we're centering 1.5 inch down, and we're centering our overlay on our lining. First piece of DST. Second piece of DST. Alright, side note, I am working in black. Keep in mind, I am showing you how to complete the pattern by simply walking you through. I'm not here to show you how fast or how slow or anything like that I sew. I'm simply walking you through the pattern. So, yep, I am working in black. Some of my stitching is going to be difficult to see, but you'll get the idea because we're walking step by step through the pattern. All right, we've got that adhered with the DST. We're going to stitch around the outer edge with your favorite top stitching setting. All right, here you can see on the back side. And since this is top stitching, I'm actually going to go ahead and pull my tails to the back. We were able to make that work anyways, despite the fact it broke off. All right, like I said, this is going to be one you're not going to be able to see real well. But I have top stitched around the outer edge. Note, you will notice you almost always only ever see one of my hands with these clutch motors on these industrials or semi-industrial machines. If you've ever driven a stick shift car, it's kind of the same way. You've got to hit that sweet point when releasing the clutch and applying the gas to get it to move forward. Same thing with these clutch machines, these clutch motor machines. You've got to find that sweet point. And so what I'm doing as I'm stepping on the foot pedal, I'm also coaxing my hand wheel forward so that I don't take off like a jackrabbit. Okay? Just old mechanical machines, if you've been sewing for 20 plus years or whatever, some of the older machines needed a little coaxing forward. So that's always why you see only one hand. My other hand is coaxing the hand wheel forward so that I start with a smooth start, slower stitches. You'd be surprised the difference it makes. To finish up your zipper overlay for your lining, be sure to cut just the lining out from behind your overlay. Moving on to our zipper lining, you need a 9-inch zipper or thereabouts, one pole installed, and your zipper lining. And with both right sides up, we are going to stitch along this edge at 1/4 inch. All right, here we have the first side. Now you simply pull it down to the other side. Kind of make sure your sides of your lining match up. And matching up. Now the second side of your zipper, stitch again at 1/4 inch. Okay, there we have it. Easy peasy. It's created a tube. So now we will move on to centering this in our zipper overlay opening. Okay, after getting the zipper on, we have created a tube. We are now centering it using the DST. Be sure you're not stretching your overlay. I like to follow a grain line on my zipper tape. It's kind of how we did zippers back when I first started sewing. Just follow a grain line in the zipper tape. Fiddle with it until you are happy in the placement. I know there's a number of jigs and tools out there to make this easier. By the time I had to find my tool to get that centered, I could probably just simply have it done. All right, so I have folded my zipper pocket lining up, and I'm going to stitch from an 1/8 inch past both sides and just top stitch this lower edge. Okay, looks like that was the end of my bobbin. So we're going to go ahead and pull the tails to the back. Okay, so we have stitched from here to here. Now, if you know me or watched any of my other videos, you know the first thing we do next is take this to the iron and press our pocket lining down nice and smoothly. The idea is we don't want to push this down with this lining puckered up in there, because then it'll be in front of your zipper and you risk catching it when you top stitch this other side. So I just like to make sure my lining is pulled down and give it a good press so it is exactly where I want it. Okay, so I'm going to go to the ironing board, press this put a new bobbin in, and I will be right back. Fresh bobbin, we are ready to go. I have pressed this nice and flat. It's one reason why I actually do not enjoy or like to work with waterproof canvas for linings. I think it makes great backpacks, but I don't like it for your dressier handbags. So I have really enjoyed, I think it's easy to work with, a good quality cotton canvas. So, yes, it does take interfacing. I just like the crisper look. It's my preference. Your preference might be the other. Whatever makes you happy and enjoy your bag. We are going to stitch from this point up, over, and back down, stopping and starting where that bottom line stopped and started. Remember, when you are tugging or pulling in any way, like when you move the zipper, pull, there might be a snug fit next to the zipper foot. Make sure your needle is in so you don't shift where your stitching line is. And there you can see how we've stitched the two short ends and across the top. Again, I'm going to pull my ends to the back. So, okay, we've done around the top. You can't see the top stitch very well, but it's there. Now, we're actually going to close up the bottom linings through this pocket. So I'm just going to cut the bottom open. And now I am going to sew down the sides, both sides of the zipper, leaving the bottom open, but both sides of the zipper at a 1/2 inch. And I find if you start at this end, and so up here where all your bulk and where you're stitching and it's a little tighter, you will get closer. So approximately a 1/2 inch. This one's not so important that it's exact. Just like that, we've got one side down, repeat for the other. And here we have our completed lining zipper pocket. Okay, we're going to set this to the side with two of our other lining pieces that we will not be stitching any pockets on. You certainly can if you like that many pockets. But I'm just doing the one zipper and the one slip. So our next step is I have prepared my slip pocket accent. There's a center line drawn with silver pen, and I have a piece of DST to both sides. On the pocket lining itself, fold it up so that it's 5 inches tall, and stitch 1/2 inch seams on both of the short ends. All right, there's one. Repeat for the other side. Here we have both side seams stitched. We have left the top open. I have trimmed away my corners, And yep, now it's time to go to the ironing board. We're gonna flip it right side out, push out our corners nicely with a point tool, and then we'll come back and we'll stitch the top open with a basting line to hold it shut. Be right back. Gotta love what a nice press, it looks so cool. All right. We are going to stitch just a 1/4 inch from the edge, straight across. Nothing special. Don't even have to back tack. We just need to hold the 2 edges together. Now I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to give this a nice, clean, crisp, trimmed edge. Just get rid of all those little fuzzies so my accent piece lays there nicer. Nicely trimmed edge. It's also a good time to make sure that your pocket, at least your top edge of your pocket, is nice and square. So we're going to remove the paper, I think. And we're going to line up centered right next to that center line we drew. Okay, we want to be able to see that line. And the second side, we're going to fold it over nice. I always start folding over at the mid. Whichever you have chosen to be the front of your pocket, your slip pocket, we're going to top stitch along this raw edge. Okay, again, using your favorite top stitch setting. The idea is you want to make sure that you're also going to catch the back side. Okay, so we want to get through all layers. All right, there we have top stitched. And we have plenty of overlay on the back. Now we're going to trim these off even with the sides of our pocket. Be careful not to trim away the pocket, especially since, like I said, my material of choice is a woven canvas, cotton canvas. So if you trim away, it's going to actually unravel. So I'm just trimming that away like that. Both sides. Nice sharp scissors is your best friend. We're going to center our slip pocket 2 inches down from the top. Centered in place. Just like that. Pin or hold or clip or however you go about it. Hold it in place. Just like that. And now we're going to stitch the three sides. You want the side, each side, and the bottom. Right along the edge, 1/8 inch, right along the edge. And then I also like to put a divider line because I like my pens to be upright and easy to just grab the end of a pen and go forward. And so I will do a line and Felix is here to say hi. Hope you got that good nose view. So again, just down, across, and back up. I don't use an exact top stitch setting because this is structural. This is holding the pocket on. So, too big of a top stitch length, I don't think is structural. It's not sound stitch. It's top stitch. It's meant to be decorative. So I use something smaller to stitch my pocket on. Since the pocket is structural, I did back tack at the start and stop of my stitching. There's no magic number for this, for that stitch line. I just, I eyeball it. And another little secret of mine, I actually eyeball all of my top stitching. I don't use guides. I eyeball it. I don't even have a line I follow. I follow down my 1/4 inch foot. I follow down halfway. I eyeball it. There's my secret. All right, I am going to go and install rivets at the top of my stitch lines, just because I like the look, and this lining has kind of a steampunk jive. So I'm going to add the antique brass rivets and be right back. And here we have the rivets installed. I do put a little chunk of duckable light to support the rivets. And then I also took the time to install my labels. I do not give any suggestions as to when to apply your labels. That's a very personal thing. Should not be dictated by the designer of the pattern. So have fun with it. You can always add a key keeper. Just a strap to hold your keys from falling to your bottom of your bag. Any of those things, but we're going to set this to the side and start on the exterior. Next section is going to be preparing the sides. We have the strap connector, and it's in one piece. I'll be cutting it in half to length once it's top stitched. The side tops and the side bottoms. And you may or may not need your D-rings in this next few steps. I'll get to that one a little bit later, but you'll understand what I mean by that. So we're going to start with the strap connectors. I've applied a 1 inch, well, just shy of 1 inch, a scant 1 inch wide piece of Decoville light, along with 2 strips of DST along the edges. And we're basically going to fold these long sides into the middle. And again, I always start folding from the midpoint or somewhere in the mid. I find that in doing so, you are simply folding over. Instead of tugging, pulling, you are simply folding over. Okay, so just fold it over. Now, depending on if you cut it a full inch, the decibel like, you may not actually meet in the middle. Okay, keep that in mind. So now we're just going to top stitch both sides. And top stitch. Now we're simply going to fold in half and cut it in half so that we have two strap connectors. Here are our bottom sides and our top sides. Mark your center point if you have a pen to mark on black. I'm not sure where my silver pen is right this second, so your strap connector is going to be right sides together, centered, even with this edge, this top edge. Okay. So we're centered, right sides together with the bottom. And I'm going to clip it in place, just like that. Okay. This is your top. Right sides together, the side top and the side bottom. This is going to sandwich your strap connector in the middle. So just like that. And we're going to stitch through everything. Strap connector, you can see it in the middle there. We're going to stitch 1/4 inch. All right, that is stitched. Now we're going to fold the strap connector and the side top up. And we want our seam to go down. Okay, you see that? That's how we want this to go. Basically, the bulk of this strap connector right there is going to make that seam want to go down anyway. So we're going to do it that way. Okay, now we're going to top stitch through just the bottom side of this seam through the seam allowance. Just like that. Okay, so this side is done if you have a domestic machine. Now, if you have an industrial and layers are not a problem, I'll show you and explain on this one if you want to use your D-rings now. Okay? So, again, we've got our side bottom. And what you'd want to do is go ahead and thread your D-ring on and fold your strap connector in half. just like that. Okay, just like that. And then now you want to center the folded strap connector with the D-ring on your bottom, your side bottom, just like that. Okay. Now, when you place the side top on, you can see the big difference we have now in the amount of bulk. The only difference is that in doing it this way, you're either going to have all that bulk to sew through, and then keep in mind when we put this up, now you've got more bulk. Okay, you've got an additional layer you've got to stitch through. Okay, so for domestic machines, I definitely recommend do it this way, because then we'll slide the D-ring on and we will push the end of that strap connector right down into that fold, just like that, with the D-ring on, and then rivet it in place. Either way, you're still going to want, once this is sewn together, you're still going to want a couple rivets in here just to hold the strap connector going straight up instead of getting pulled out and distorting the shape of your bag. Okay? That's the only difference, and it's due to all these layers. So I like to do mine this way. It's just domestic friendly, and I personally am not a fan of bags that say you need an industrial. It's just not fair to those of us who don't have these nice, fancy, expensive industrial machines. I want anybody and everybody to be able to sew my patterns. I try and keep everything constructed with a domestic machine in mind. Okay, you'll notice I have two stabilizers here. This is Decobell Light on the top, side top, and this is EB Fuse. I wanted to prevent the stretch, but I still needed to keep it out of the seam allowances just for bulk issues. Okay, I like the Decobell Light on the top because we'll be riveting in it. I think it's just a little bit safer to use the Decobell Light for stability and security with riveting. So this is what we will end up with, just like that, both sides, and we'll add a rivet or two, probably two. Just like that, we've top stitched through. We're going to set those aside. Here we have all the pieces for the next constructions series of steps. We've got two exterior zipper pocket linings. We have the back bottom. We have the back top band. We have two zippers with zipper folds installed. And we have 4 pieces of roughly 2x2 zipper ends. So we are going to start by creating the 2 zippers. and right sides together. Okay, so you can see the dimples of the ostrich skin. Face down, just like that. Okay, on all four ends. Okay, I usually use scraps. So a lot of times my zipper ends like this are not necessarily 2x2 because you see some are a little bit different size. They're basically just scraps. And sometimes the color choice they are is what scraps I have available. So, these, you're not going to see a whole lot of it in the end. But for this particular bag construction, I didn't want the zipper tape actually in the side seams. So we're doing the zipper ends. So 1/4 inch seam allowance to stitch the zipper end to the zippers. And I will be right back. I have stitched on all four zipper ends. Now, depending on what your machine can handle, so we're going to fold these off the end like that. Okay. I went ahead and applied some DST so that, again, that second set of hands to hold that folded. Just like that. Now, if you happen to have permanent DST, you can stop right here. And in fact, if you have a domestic machine that may not handle sewing your faux vinyl or your faux leather and your zipper tape and all that fun stuff, you can stop right here. You do not actually need to top stitch this. If you do not choose the top stitching, I might recommend go ahead and stitch your zipper to your zipper end a second time. Just add an 1/8 inch, just to the towards the outer edge of your zipper tape, just to reinforce. Make sure you don't have that let loose on you. Okay, so here is the back bottom. Okay, now it has EB fuse on it, because this is actually a little bit thinner vinyl than what the and it also has a little bit of a give. So I'm just keeping things from stretching. My lining, pocket lining, does not have any stabilizer on. So right sides together along the top edge, I put on a line of DST. Okay. I'm going to peel the paper backing. And now with the zipper closing to the left. Okay. Right side facing down. I'm going to center my zipper in place. So you can see right sides together. And now I need one of these lining pieces. And right side to the right side of the back bottom. So we're sandwiching our zipper in between. We're going to match up that top edge. And we're going to sew through everything, 1/4 inch seam allowance, end to end. Now you can see we have our back bottom and our zipper closes towards the left. And I don't think there's any right or wrong direction that your zipper goes. I think it's personal preference, but I know so many people are so quick to say in the groups, it's gotta close to the left, it's gotta close to the left. I don't pay attention to how I pick up my bag when I go to leave the house. Most of the time I pick it up, throw it in the seat next to me. I get out to go to the grocery store or do whatever shopping I'm going to do. I sling it over my shoulder or up over my head so it's crossbody. I'm not paying attention to which direction is towards the outside. I'm not a fashionista. I just do what I got to do. So now we've got the zipper pulled up nice and snug. The vinyl is folded down and our lining is also folded down. And you know what that means. I am actually going to, like always, head to the ironing board and fold my lining down nice and crisp. Be right back. Okay, lining pressed. Now we're going to go ahead and top stitch through all layers along this bottom edge. All right, there you have the top stitching line through all layers. Now we're going to do basically the same thing with the top band. Okay. So right sides together with the zipper. And I have DST to hold it in place. I like to make sure that my band and that bottom front are nice and lined up, just like that. Now our second piece of lining here, we are going to again match it up. So we're sandwiching the zipper in between that band and the lining, and we have Mr. Felix here for help. And his tail went through all the thread. Thanks, bub. He's feeling left out. So we're going to stitch through the lining, the zipper, and that back top band. 1/4 inch seam allowance again. All right, there we have it. 1/4 inch seam allowance. There's the back side of our zipper. Now we're going to simply fold this top front band or top back band. We're working on the back up and top stitch along this edge through the top band and the seam allowance. Okay, there's the back. There's the front. Both sides of the zipper are top stitched. Now, on this back side, since we started with the same size pocket lining, but one is stitched to the bottom side of the zipper tape, one is stitched to the top side, we have a difference in size. So we're simply going to carefully trim those up. And depending on the choice of material, you may want to trim a little off the shorter one as well. Because what we are actually looking for is we're going to have a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So now go ahead and draw that in real quick. Okay, so here's basically our 1/2 inch seam allowance. Okay? Especially for, excuse me, especially for domestic machines. And you can see this one piece comes right to that line. We don't necessarily want this pocket lining in that bottom seam allowance. So go ahead and just trim it up a little bit. You can use a straight edge. Just be sure you're folding your exterior out of the way. So I'm going to trim that down and I will be right back. Okay, here you see, see my seam allowance line. There's still plenty of room in this pocket to like drop a cell phone. So that's all I've done. All we want to do now, some actual straight pins, is keep that right. We want to keep those bottom edges together, just like that. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and stitch at a 1/4 inch seam allowance to keep the pocket, as deep as we can. Because you never know what you might need to stick in it. So 1/4 inch seam allowance. And remember, we're only stitching through the bottom lining, so be sure to fold it away from your exterior pieces. We have the bottom of our pocket stitched shut. It's going to be out of the seam allowance. Okay. The side seams are actually going to go in the 1/2 inch side seam allowance. Here it is from the front. I am going to, I think I'm going to go ahead and install a label right there, just below the top edge centered, and trim the ends of my zipper down and just kind of make sure that everything is squared. And I will be right back and we will start the exterior front. Okay, here we have the completed back, label installed. From the back side, the lining sides are open. Now you can most certainly, if you are more comfortable, baste these down if you feel necessary, but It's really not, it's not got anywhere to really go. But if you're worried about it getting folded up and all funky, by all means, you can baste each side at about 1/4 inch. The bottom edge, raw edge of our pocket is out of our seam allowance. Okay, we're going to set this aside with all the other pieces we have set aside. And here are all the pieces for our okay, so we need to start with our and one of the linings. It's one of the larger linings. Okay, keep in mind which one you're doing. Nope, wrong one. It's shorter lining. Sorry about that. All right, this is the zipper lining. Okay, so this is going to go with the zipper. And so F is going to go with these pieces. G will go with the lining of the zipper pieces. Okay, so let's try and keep this all straight. Okay, here are our two optional front flaps. Okay, and I only have the stabilizer, which is the EB fuse, on one piece, just because of bulk. Okay, so we need that. We're going to need the F, and we need one of our shorter lining pieces. It's going to be the slip pack. Now, we need to create that slip pocket opening. All right, I am going to draw a line at 5/8 inch. Just like that. Okay. Since my EB fuse is releasing a little bit, you can see my line better. All right. Now, from each end, draw 1.5 inches. Okay, so you can see what I've got here, and you can see that I actually have my EB fuse is right up to what is going to be a stitch line. Okay, we've drawn in our stitch lines. So I'm going to go back to the iron, and I am going to fuse that down a little bit better, and then we're going to put right sides together with that top edge. And then we're going to stitch on right on the lines that we drew. Okay, and I will be right back. All right, here you can see we have the lining, which is most definitely shorter than our exterior. Okay, stitched on the lines we drew. Now you want to take a nice sharp scissors and you want to snip directly in that corner. Okay, just like that. The tighter, closer you can get in that corner, the nicer this is going to turn. Repeat for the other side, just like that. Okay, do not snip your threads, of course. It won't be pretty. I go ahead and trim down to about 1/4 inch, just like that. Okay, we've snipped both corners so that we can now turn this way. Okay, so we're going to turn this, and I think I'm actually going to use again that second hand just to help hold everything where you want it to stay. So just like that. Now, you'll have less lining show on your exterior front pocket edge if your crease is actually on the vinyl exterior. Okay, so yep, again, I'm headed to the ironing board. We're going to press this lining nicely in place so that we have crisp folded edges, just like that, so that I can tap stitch this opening. I will be right back. All right, so nicely pressed. I am going to tap stitch along what we've just sewn and turned and pressed. Okay, so you can see we've stitched. Okay, tap stitched along that edge. Now, the second lining, we are going to match that same top edge, just like that. Okay, so just like that. There's our lining. Now, starting from 1/2 or 3/4 inch from each end, we're going to baste these two pieces together just at the top. But we want to stay out of this seam allowance for a couple of reasons. We're going to, for domestic machine users, eliminate a little bit of this bulk of having 2 more sets of lining layers in our side seams, okay? Because we're going to put a zipper pocket. We're going to have a band, then we're going to have a zipper pocket. And that zipper pocket lining will be in the side seams. So we're just going to cut this back so that it's not in the side seams. Just to eliminate bulk. Okay, so we're not going to stitch a whole lot, but we are going to keep the two sides together, the two pieces together. Okay, I have the lining stitched to that top edge of our top stitched slip pocket. Now I don't do that a lot, but because we're going to be closing up this pocket and trimming it down before right now, it's just easier to know that, okay, it's where it belongs at the top. Okay. So about 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, whatever you can get in there. Down the side seams. Length of the pocket lining is well out of the seam. So just 1/4 inch cross bottom. Okay. Now you can see, got wider side seams. Okay. Now, what's important to remember that when you're pulling your exterior out of the way, you want to kind of roll it in the middle. Because if you tried rolling it up here, guess what that does? That kind of distorts the back pocket lining, and so they won't be even. Now I'm simply going to trim these down to 1/4 inch or a little less. I want it out of the seam allowance. You can always draw your seam allowances on your side seam allowances. Just keep it out of the seam allowance. Okay, so we have a completed, it's actually complete, slip pocket that we are going to set to the side. Now this part is optional. Remember what I said, that this flap is the least domestic machine friendly section. So consider your machine as to if you're going to decide to do your flap or not. All right, so I have applied stabilizer to the exterior. This is actually going to be, I like my stabilizer on the piece that's actually going to be on the exterior at all times, okay? 1/4 inch all the way around, and I have kept the stabilizer, this is EB Fuse, out of the seam allowance. So 1/4 inch all the way around. All right, so with right sides together, let's then stitch at 1/4 inch all the way around. Now, hint on sewing curves. You really need to, as you saw me, lift your foot, pivot just a bit. You actually will get a nicer, rounder corner. Okay? I don't know of a way, and I have been sewing for over 45 years, to stitch. Yeah, maybe the sweatshop seamstresses can do it. Us home sewers that put quality into our work, not this curve. It's too sharp. Okay, so just with your needle in, pivot just a little bit and go around your curve. You will get a much nicer curve. So now when we flip this right side out, we need this to shape a nice curve without crazy nuts bulk. So I'm going to go around these curves and just trim out little clip corners, just like that. Okay, I'm going to do both corners. I don't need to do the stripe. That's not a problem. That'll turn just fine, but I need to around both corners. Yes, if I had a pinky shears, I could just snip and snip. I have no idea where mine walked off to, so I do this the hard way with a nice sharp scissors. The closer you get to your stitching line without snipping stitches, the nicer your corner, your curve will turn. All right, I will be right back and show you what I end up with. And here we have clipped our corners. So now when we flip this, right side out, just like that. Just like that. And I'm actually going to go take this to the iron and warm it up, the vinyl up a little bit with a pressing cloth to really roll the edge nice. But that's what we have. Okay. Remember, this is going to be the side that's up. Okay. So manipulate that, and then we're going to top stitch an 1/8 inch or whatever you're chosen. You can do double, you can do triple, you can do quadruple if you love your top stitching. Okay, we're going to top stitch around this sewn seam. And I will be back with that because it's going to take a little bit of finagling, and I want to heat up the vinyl to make sure that my edge is rolled nice. Okay, I will be back in a moment. Okay, and here we have our top stitched flap. Okay, funky little point there because I didn't pivot well. Don't think it'll show too bad. All right, what I'm going to do, because I'm going to sew this flap shut, I need to decide, am I going to put my snap closure? And in all reality, you don't need to even put a snap closure on because of the way this is stitched in there. It's going to lay downward, period. It just the construction method steps have it so that it will stay laying down in place. But for security reasons, it's kind of nice to put some kind of closure, whether it's a turn lock in the middle of the flap, a large decorative magnetic snap. There are turn locks that go over your edge. So basically just center appropriately. And if your hardware is really big, you may have wanted to consider that when creating your flap and maybe add a little bit of room. You've got, you certainly could add more so that you can put bigger hardware. So I am actually going to put it through because I have the cam snaps. So I'm going to have a decorative, it's going to look like it's going to look like a large rivet on the front exterior. All right, so here is our completed slip pocket. And now you're going to center that just like this. Okay. So that it is centered over the opening. Okay, so just like that. I'm going to go ahead and just maybe clip in place, and you're basically going to want to hold all the layers together. All right, and there's the other end. Okay. Now, our piece is going to lay right side to that flap. Right? And now, okay, just like that. All right. We are going to stitch through everything with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Now, we drew our opening of our slip pocket at 5/8 inch, and that's where we stitched. Okay, so showing you on this completed bag, that slip pocket opening is literally right at the seam. Now this gets really awkward. You may need whatever your tool of hump jumper, some extra scraps of vinyl to just kind of tuck in there without getting it in the seam allowance, because you can feel right where that folded edge is. Okay, and it's going to want to make your foot slide off. It's the nature of this particular beast. So it is super important that you go slow. Try and keep your foot as level as possible and on this straight 1/2 inch seam line. Okay, so just take your time. Do not overcompensate and go more than a 1/2 inch, because you're going to stitch your pocket closed. Okay, so 1/2 inch seam allowance. All right, now you can see we have stitched everything together. And, okay, we didn't stitch our pocket closed. Right, there's just a small gap there, 1/2 inch to 5/8, so it should be roughly an 1/8 inch gap. But because of the bulk here, it's not the easiest. And now we're going to actually fold this up. Okay, this is another reason for all that bulk. Okay, and that warning, I'm actually going to go ahead, trim my seam down just a little bit. And I'm going to top stitch just on this mid front band. Okay, through all the layers, all that seam allowance. And remember, again, we've got kind of a wonky, it's not a real level a surface that we're trying to stitch down. So remember to go slow so that you can keep your foot kind of on the level. Your machine will stitch better. You'll stitch straighter. If you keep your foot level. And there we have it. All right. I am actually going to go, before I go too much further, and I'm going to install my magnetic snap. So I will install my snap and I will be right back. Okay, I have my magnetic snap installed. Now, in using the cam snaps, I can simply install the one piece directly through the flap. And in so doing, I actually slide my little hole punch mat between my lining and my exterior piece, and I punch it all at once. I know it matches. It's quick, it's easy, it's a guaranteed, did I get it in the right place? Did I not get it in the right place? This is one of the reasons why measurements are not provided as to where to really put your magnetic snap, especially if you didn't use a magnetic snap. Or your hardware is, a big statement piece. You basically want it centered side to side and an aesthetically pleasing there. I typically put it roughly, the hole is punched roughly 3/4 of an inch up from this edge. All right. So now I'm going to put some DST on this edge. Because again, I like that helping hand. The second zipper. As well as one of our exterior zipper pocket lining pieces. Okay. So with your zipper closing to the left, face down, right sides together, center your zipper to the band. I think what I'm going to do, because my band stretched out a little bit because of all those layers, I'm just going to trim that off. Right sides down, center. Okay, so we've got zipper, and now the lining, right side together with the exterior, sandwiching the zipper in between. We're going to stitch 1/4 inch seam allowance from one side to the other through all layers. Okay, that mid front band, the zipper, and the lining. So 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, so just like that. Now, yep, you guessed it. Time to go back to the ironing board to iron our packet lining down nice and crisply. Be right back. Okay, with our lining pressed down, we're going to top stitch along this edge through all layers. And keep in mind, we have less bulk here, so this is, it's gonna kind of play with your head. So keep in mind, this is a really bulky spot, as is this. Okay, so make sure that you are pulling that slip pocket section down nicely so that you can get a nice crisp fold along the zipper that you're top stitching. All right, and there we have that mid band. It is top stitched on both sides. We need the G, and I'm going to go ahead and, yep, use some DST. And I am actually going to make sure that my print matches from side to side of the zipper. So this is the bottom edge of that's going to be stitched to the top edge of that zipper. I note that, okay, so that my print is the same, is going to match. This was how it was actually cut. Okay, so it should match pretty close. Kind of make sure that your band sides are gonna kind of line up here. Just like that. And just like before, we need a zipper pocket lining to be sandwiching our zipper between the lining and that top exterior top band. Okay, so 1/4 inch seam allowance. We're next to a zipper again, so 1/4 inch seam allowance. All right. It's your lining side. And just like before, we're going to fold everything up, leaving the lining down. And we're going to top stitch along that sewn edge. All right, you can see we've sewn through the seam allowance to top stitch this top band. Okay, just like that. Now, just like with the back zipper pocket, we have the same thing because one was stitched on the bottom side of the zipper tape and one was stitched to the top side of the zipper tape. Basically, that distance is this distance. So we're going to trim our bottom edge of our pocket off again and then stitch 1/4 inch seam allowance and stitch the bottom closed. Again, the zipper pocket lining will go into the side seams. So we're just I'm going to go ahead and trim this off and stitch it closed, and I will be back to show you what we have. I have gone ahead and I have trimmed the sides. So we have our completed front. Again, you can go ahead and if you feel the need, you can go ahead and stitch, just space the pockets down. I don't think it's all that necessary, but it's an option if you choose. We're going to go ahead and set this to the side with the back, and we need 2 zippers created and the top center zipper band. 2 approximately 11-inch zippers with pulls in your top, okay, your double zip top band. Okay, I've gone ahead and put a row of DST on both sides, and the important part of this is to make sure whichever way you're going to sew your zipper end from whichever, just make sure your zipper pulls are closing to the same direction. So I'm going to right sides together. Now for this step, I did cut my zipper tape just a little bit longer. I just don't want to risk actually my zipper pulls coming off, and it's just a little easier to work with. Okay, these are our completed main linings with the pockets installed. So one's got the zipper, one's got the slip. So it doesn't really matter which. Just do this the right way. Center. Okay, there's not a lot of gap, but there's a little bit of difference in size. As opposed to having 20 different pattern pieces, 2 different linings, and 2 different this, 2 different that. And most people don't like trapezoids. This is a stitch, and then we're going to trim to shape. Okay. It's a little bit more beginner friendly, I think, because pieces are interchangeable. You could very, very much put the plain ones on the middle of your top bag. But because I have slip pockets and zipper pockets on my main exteriors, I don't like a lot of pockets back to back to back to back to back. It gets a little bulky when you've got change and keys and phones and pens all in these pockets. So that's why my suggestion is to simply put the two linings with pockets to the middle. All right, so we're centered. 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, so we have our pocket, our zipper, and this is going to be one of the double top zippers. Okay. So, yep, it's that time again. We're going to go press this lining down in place. Okay. So that we can then top stitch through all layers along the zipper. Okay, so I'm going to iron and then top stitch and repeat for the second zipper and the second main lining with the other completed pocket. Okay, so I'm going to get that done and I will be right back. Okay, here is our double zipper top band. Okay, you have zippers are both going in the same direction. And we have a main lining, and I suggest using the ones with the completed pockets on them. Okay, they top stitched just like that. Okay, both of them are done that way. Now we actually want to trim these edges to the edge of that top band. And I have drawn the lines in place to show you. Okay, so here's our top band. So to that top corner, okay, because you've already notched your corners for boxed corners in your lining according to the directions. So do that on all 4 sides, okay? So we're just going to simply trim those away, and I will be right back. Okay, as you can see, I have trimmed the sides down. Now, I've also prepared the top edge of both the exterior front and back. And I realized that I did that a little bit wrong. We want this actually not all the way to the end. We want roughly a 1/2 inch from the end. Okay. Okay, I corrected my DST, 1/2 inch from each side. And I made sure that my front zipper, okay, which is the one with the flap, and the top zippers are all pulling closed in the same direction. Okay? So match up zipper edge and the top edge. See, what did I tell you? You don't need it to stick, it sticks. If it doesn't want it to stick, it doesn't stick. DST has a attitude. Okay, there we have the zipper with the exterior. carefully folded out, you can see our zippers are all going to pull closed in the same direction. Okay. So now we need one of our plain. Okay. This is just a plain interior lining. Going in the right direction. We want to center that zipper edge. So this is sandwiching the zipper in between. So this plain pocket lining is right sides together with the pocket lining sewn to the other side of the same zipper. Okay, so we're not doing this zipper yet. This zipper in here has got a lining to sandwich the zipper. And then what you want to do is mark 1/2 inch in right there. Same thing from the other side. Okay. We are going to stop and start our stitching at these 1/2 inch lines. Okay. So this is going to be a 1/4 inch seam allowance from that point to that point. And this is going to be sandwiching the zipper in between the front exterior and one of the plain main linings. Be sure to back stitch at your stop and start point. Okay, you can see we stopped and started at our line. Okay. Okay, you can see. All right. This is the back of the zipper that we just stitched. Remember, we only stitched to the half inch from the edge. Okay. We've got the two packs of linings. Okay. So these two are going to work together to create one of the inner compartments of your lining. Okay. What we want to do and it's a little bit awkward, keeping the lining folded away from the exterior. Okay, so the lining is going to go this way. Okay. The exterior is going to go this way. The seam is going to go with the exterior. Okay. So the seam is going this way. We're going to top stitch just through the front exterior, top end, and the seam allowance. Okay. Don't top stitch this other piece of main lining. And you're going to start same place, 1/2 inch in, 1/2 inch out. And I guess that was a good place to run out of bobbin thread. All right, since we are ending this without having it actually, it's not going to be in a seam allowance. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull my threads to the back and tie them off. And put a new bobbin in, and I will be right back. Alrighty, now you get going again. Okay, so you can see my top stitching and my seam right there, same spot. Same thing down at this end. Okay. And we did not top stitch this with the exterior. Okay. Don't trim. Do not trim the lining down. Now, repeat the process for the second side of the second zipper. Okay. So we're going to put the exterior face up with the zipper. We're going to put the lining on the back so that the lining, the last remaining, the fourth main lining is going to be right sides together with the main lining that's on the other side of the zipper. Okay. I'm going to repeat what I did, starting a 1/2 inch and everything, and I will be back when I'm finished. Stopped and started, 1/2 inch. Okay. Top stitched just that, what was stitched. Okay. Pulled my threads to the back. Now, we are going to create our lining pouches. Okay. The reason why one is bigger than the other is because we actually want a semi-box top corner. Okay, so I am going to start at the bottom. Okay, so I've got that point all matched up. And now I'm going to match up the one that was trimmed to the one that was not trimmed. All right, it's a little hard to see, and I was a little sloppy with my interfacing trimming. What I want to try and show you is this point up here by the zipper. Okay, so this is where you see it's a little, everything's a little too big on the one piece. But we want this little bit of extra here to be there. So we are going to stitch 1/2 inch seam allowance from the bottom up as close as we can get up here, but do not catch your zipper or your exterior or anything else. Okay? So we're going to stitch 1/2 inch seam allowance from here to as close to here as we can get. And we're going to do that 4 times. So this side, then this side, then the other 2 sets, or the other set of lining. Okay? And I find it works better to start from this open end and work up towards the bulk. Right, so just like that. Okay. So now you can see a little bit better how this is kind of all puckered. Okay? But that's how we want it. Now repeat this for the remaining. And I will be right back. Here is the exterior. Okay. And we now have two completely separate pocket lining compartments. Okay, we haven't done anything to the bottoms yet. Okay. You can see here's the top double zip band. Okay. And we have one zipper pouch, two zipper pouch. Okay, and you can see it kind of looks like a fairly good sized gap. And it kind of is. But some of these abnormalities, I guess you could call them, unique ways of doing things, is how not binding the bag gets done. Okay? I wanted a double zip top, but I wanted separate lining pouches, one for each of those top zippers. So this is what I've got. Now we need our sides. All right. So what I have found, okay, not everybody likes working with trapezoid pieces. So these are way too big. They are way too big on purpose. Okay. Remember, you want to keep your strap connector, or if you have a D-ring on there already, keep it out of the way. We are going to center the side with right sides together with, how do I describe this best? Okay, so our bag is going to go like this. Okay. And so now we need side gussets. So we want the sides, okay? So we want our strap to be centered. It's basically centered with our top zipper thing. Okay? Does that make sense from that side? All right. And what we want to do is we want to manipulate these lining tops in a way that it's going to kind of box that top corner where that gap is. Okay? So kind of open up your lining a little bit, kind of box that corner. Okay? You want to be able to, this is going to get really awkward, but again, this is what happens when you're trying to avoid binding your interior seams. We are going to stitch from that point, which is, show you on the other side, this point. Okay? So we want that point where we sewed starting a 1/2 inch in. We are going to sew that same point is right there. We're going to sew from that point to that same spot over here. Okay? So it's that point right there. Not where we top stitched, because this is the top stitch end. We want that spot right there. And we want to stitch across the top of these pockets or interior linings. Okay? So just kind of fiddle with them, get them kind of in there. And then you are stitching at 1/2 inch seam allowance. Okay? And yep, it is a little bit bulky. Be 100% sure that your strap connector is not in the wrong place. You do not want to catch that. And this is a little bit bulky, so just really maneuver it under your machine. You're stopping and starting in that particular same spot from before, 1/2 inch seam allowance. Be sure you back tack well. Okay, you can kind of see what we got there. And you can see how that now boxes the tops of those linings. Okay? We stopped and started. Just like that. Okay? Just like that. Stitch a second time. So remember, we're stitching our zippers closed here as well. So go ahead and just stitch another line. Okay, that will reinforce everything. Okay, so now I strongly recommend that if you didn't stitch both ends into your seam, go ahead and slide your strap connectors together now. Put your D-ring on or your O-rings. Okay, this is a permanent JST. I'm gonna get it from Sandy Leather. And then just tuck that in nice and snug. Just like that. And now I'm going to go ahead and put 2 rivets. Okay. So 2 rivets, one about a 1/2 inch up, and then another one about 3/4 up from there. So I'm going to go ahead and put 2 rivets to hold that strap where I want it to be. Okay. 1 or 2 is perfectly your preference, but I'm going to install the rivets and then I'm going to put the second side, completed side gusset on, and I'll come back and show you where we're at. All right, here is where we are at now. As you can see, the side gussets, completed side gussets, now have the double rivets. There's more than enough space for two, especially if you put one a little bit higher, so that your D-ring stays put. And again, so that your strap connector and D-ring strap all pull up instead of out, distorting the shape of your bag. You can see, okay, that's where the top stitching all ended. I have applied DST on all four of the exterior short sides, and I have stopped. It's hard to see on that one. This one's better. 1/2 inch from the bottom. And what I have done on the back is drawn 1/2 inch squares in each of my corners. Okay. I have done the same on side gussets. All four bottom corners. We have the two separate lining pouches. Okay. What I have also done is drawn my seam allowances and my pieces. Okay. So, and the reason why I did that is just in case this is our registration point. We have got to do all our matching to where we started and stopped our stitch line with our zippers. Okay, so I have just with everything laying where it's meant to lay, just drawn a seam allowance line. Now I've also done that on each of the side gussets. Okay, so you can see this now is at an angle, and they all end at that square I drew on the bottom corners. Okay, now this is the reason for the DST. We're going to line that up there, but now I'm going to lay this flat here. Okay, so I've lined up my bottom corner. Okay, I've lined up my bottom corner, just like that. Okay. So now it's kind of impossible to check, but this seam line you drew should come pretty close to matching this seam line. Okay, because this is a point that we want to end at. Okay, I recommend always starting from the outer, less bulky point, because it's easier to run uphill than it is to try and get that hill up under your foot to get started. Right? I'm just going to put one single clip there. Obviously, the reason why we're using the DST, you cannot get a clip in there all the way. And I don't want it trimmed until we've stitched it first, so that we have everything correctly positioned for a good final result. Okay, so I've got my lining where it needs to be. Okay, and remember we're starting at that 1/2 inch point. And we're actually following our drawn line, not an actual seam allowance on our machine. Be sure to back tack your stitches. Again, be sure to back stitch, tacking those corners. Now, if you have a domestic, I do recommend trying to get off your stabilizer, so it's not in your seam allowance. Another thing I might recommend for domestic is just use SF 101 on both your pieces and put a strip of Decoville just where your strap's going to be, where those rivets are going to be. Because, like I explained earlier, I really prefer Decoville light for the rivets. All right, so let's take a little bit of a look here. And you can see how we've got a good point up there. Okay. We're straight here, but our gusset is at an angle. Okay, so let's do that again on this one. Now, kind of hard to see. See if I can move the light a little bit. We've got our zipper gusset. Okay. Our strap connector lines up with our top double zipper band. I don't remember what it's called. Okay. Now we're going to repeat for the other side. Okay. Now remember, keep your zipper pulls out of the way. Pull them towards the middle of the bag. And I'm going to repeat. And then I'm going to show you how I trim the seams and corners. Be right back. Okay. I have gone ahead and I have trimmed this side. Okay. Probably trim that a little bit closer. Okay, that's like that. And I have trimmed the bulk out of my corners. I'll show you how. But do not trim your zipper tape. I repeat, do not trim your zipper tape. So here's how I did it. I've come in at the point, at that 1/2 inch point. Because remember, we didn't stitch this bottom part. Or if you did, take it out, reinforce your stitches so that that bottom 1/2 inch is not stitched. Okay, so just like that. Now I'm going to isolate this piece here and trim it away. All right, I'm going to isolate the same on the side gusset. Okay, but I have not trimmed my zipper tape. I don't want that unraveling in that corner. It's going to be an odd stress point, so we don't want to snip into our zipper tape. Let's do this again. Trim the seam allowance down. Gonna isolate this exterior corner. Just like that. Okay. Now I'm gonna isolate the side gusset top corner and trim that down. A little bit there. Just like that. This is the bottom. Okay. I have applied Peltex first, and then I applied SF 101 over everything. I am marking my at minimum my corners. Just 1/2 inch. You can actually, on your bottom piece, I find a lot of times what's very helpful is to simply mark all your seam allowances. It doesn't take a lot of extra time. This bottom, just side note, it's more than big enough to put some purse feet on. So if you like purse feet. Now, a word about gussets. If you want to square up any corner in any sewing project anywhere, whether you are mitering quilt corners or you are putting bias tape on, if it's a 90-degree corner of any sort, you never, ever, ever, never sew edge to edge. You only ever sew seam allowance to seam allowance. Okay? Terribly, terribly important. Seam allowance to seam allowance. Fit my bottom, bag bottom in just like this. All right, so now what was my tip about gussets of any kind? Seam allowance to seam allowance, not edge to edge. That's why we drew our 1/2 inch corners in place. So we're going to stitch from this point to this point, which should be this seam starting point and this seam starting point. And if you feel it's necessary, you can always sew from this side. Now, note, sometimes it's hard to get this bulk actually slid under your presser foot and get everything to stay in place. You can always start at the middle and sew out, and then in the middle, sew out the other direction. Just an ease note. So I am sewing seam allowance to seam allowance, not edge to edge. Okay? I cannot stress how important that is. Okay? There are some shortcuts in sewing. That is not one of them. Okay? Be sure that you back tack. So here you see. And now this side did not quite get where I wanted it to. So I'm basically just going to go back in. Start a couple of inches in. Okay, looks like my bottom slid just a little bit. All right, easy peasy, no having to get the seam ripper out. All right, that is a much better corner. Okay, so catch corner. Now, do the opposite side. I know sometimes you want to take a shortcut. You want to clip it all in place all the way around. Nope, this is not a good place for shortcuts. All right, I now have stitched the both long sides. Okay, and you know what I forgot to do? I stick my hand in here and I'm going to open one of the top zippers. Okay, so got to turn the bag. So if you haven't already, make sure your top zippers are open. Okay, we need to be sure we are stopping and starting where the seams are going to meet. Okay, so now I'm going to do this one. Okay, pull your side out. It doesn't even matter what this piece is going to do, because our front and back are not going to get caught in this little side seam allowance. Three free corners here. Okay, this is the exterior, either front or back. I think that's the front. This is the side corner, and this is the bottom corner. Right? They're not at this corner. They're all free. Okay. So what I'm going to do now, I want to trim all this bulk away. So I am going to isolate the first chunk, right? That was just the bottom corner, right? Now I can isolate the side gusset bottom corner. Trim away again. And last, I can isolate the front exterior bottom corner and trim that away. We have alleviated so much bulk. I'm going to go ahead and trim that bottom corner a little bit. Now, to repeat the process, I'm going to isolate the exterior, the front or back exterior, and I'm going to snip away that corner. Okay, you can get a nice tight corner trim there. Same thing now with the bottom. Nice and tight to that corner. And last but not least, isolate the side gusset corner and trim that away. Now I'm just going to clean up a little bit of my trimming from my side seams. Trim this down like that. All right. Now I still need to stitch this side, so I'm going to go ahead and stitch this side, trim my corners again. You see, now you have a nicely trimmed corner over here on this side. I'm going to repeat the process over here, trim these sides, long sides, once I've got the other side stitched, and it'll be time to turn the bag. I will be right back. Here we have our bottom. Corners all nice and trimmed. Okay. Side seams all nice and trimmed. All right. Now for the big reveal. So figure out which one you opened. All right, it's going to come through here. What I do is I push the bottom in and I pull the bottom through. It's not exactly a berth. It's close. The opening in the bottom of the lining is definitely closer. A much bigger opening. Doing the double layered Peltec on your bottom gives you, your bottom has more structure than the rest. Okay, so you get a nice turn. Now, okay, we have, I found it didn't really make a difference which one I chose. Okay, but you're going to pull one of the linings, the main lining pouch, up through the other lining pouch. So let me show you here. All right, this is the lining that has the zipper. Okay, that's the pocket lining, and we cut that open, remember. This is the other side. Got them rolled back. This is the pocket main lining that has the slip pocket up. So that's that duo. So we are going to match up this bottom. We're going to stitch at 1/2 inch seam allowance. Okay, 1/2 inch seam allowance. Go ahead and trim your seam. Now pull out your corners. Finish off by boxing those up. Just like that. And I like to nest my seams because your corner will be squarer if you make sure your seam allowance for the bottom and your seam allowance going up the side are all nicely in line with each other. Okay, again, 1/2 inch seam allowance. Trim. Repeat for the second side. Be right back. And here we have the bottom all stitched closed. Corners squared away nice. We're going to shove that lining compartment back down in our bag. And we're going to make sure that our corner point didn't get all goofed up, pulling that lining upwards. Okay. Keep in mind the stuff you have in your bag will hold your lining in place nicely at this seam because this one is not top stitched. Okay. All right, there's that side. Now we need open our lining zipper. Okay. That's in there. All right, let's back in there. Figure out how I'm going to do this. All right, now reach in through the zipper pocket lining that's on the lining's zipper pocket. Let me get that phrase right. Okay. And this is the bottom. We are pulling up through that open bottom. Okay. Here's our overlay. Right? Here's that pocket lining. Here is our main lining. You see how much bigger it is, right? And the corner cutouts. Okay, so repeat, 1/2 inch trim, then box your corners. And I'm going to stitch that and I will be right back. Okay, I completed the second pocket lining and I have pushed it down in the bottom of my bag. And I have prepared to close up my lining zipper pocket. All I did is, I pressed it. There's no magic number here, 1/2 inch-ish, thereabouts. And then just stitch close to the edge. Okay, so see real good on that side. It's 1/8 inch seam allowance-ish. Again, no right or wrong measurement for that, just right along the edge. Remember to tweak your corners just a little bit more. And guess what? Congratulations, your bag exterior is complete. Okay? And no binding. And each top zipper has its own lining compartment. So now to move on to do the strap. Okay? So I am going to set this aside and pull out the strap stuff and I will be right back. Time for some strap making. Okay, I have prepared my strap piece, which is cut to the width of the fabric, and I have left my selvages on. No particular reason, but I can then, once it's all stitched, trim it off nice and straight. I have applied, first off, I marked the center. Then I applied to one side, next to, but not up to, because you can still see the line, some stabilizer. Now, I have repeatedly seen, Felix, I have repeatedly seen people complain that their strap or their strap connectors have torn from just simple use. If you don't put the stabilizer in, I don't care how expensive, how nice, just the nature of a strap connector, it must have a stabilizer in it. For my strap connectors, I definitely use Deckelville Light, even though I'm not a huge fan of it. It is one place I find it is just, it's necessary. For strap, this is EB Fuse. It'll be enough stabilizer because I don't sew on my straps. I just go ahead and rivet them together. And they do just fine. And then I applied 2 pieces of DST. Okay? So now I'm going to remove the paper and I'm going to fold these up to the middle, both sides. Okay, and that's going to take a little bit, so I am going to come back once I have that all done. I may need to use some clips to hold it all in place. But once I've got the sides folded to the middle, I will be right back. I have folded in both to the center. You can kind of sort of see where they've met. And I've applied another piece of DST. And this is now going to hold the final fold over together. Okay, and like I said before, I try and start in the middle of my strap. Okay, you're more likely to simply fold it over as opposed to push and pull in any way. Now that we've got that all clipped, I do for long straps use stitching guides just for my straps. Call me lazy, I guess. Now we have our strap all top stitched. We have rivets. We have strap ends. These are optional. I like them. Adjustable slide. It happens to be what I prefer. They're easy to come by. And then 2 swivel hooks. I use a cam snap, big green press, and then I use the Japanese ratchet hole punch, and basically it's not indestructible because these hole punches destroy your cutting mats. So this is just a little one for specifically for this job. I have gone ahead and trimmed the selvage edges off my strap. And our first step, thread one end of your strap over your slide. Okay, so I've got that slid over the center. Now I'm going to fold this at roughly 1.5 inches. Now this is going to be a tight fit. It's actually a little more than 1.5 inches just because of the tight fit. So since I like strap ends, I'm going to go ahead and install a strap end here. So I'm going to do that off camera because those little screws can be a little temperamental, and I will be right back. All right, first strap end is installed. Quick and easy. So now from the other loose end, let's make sure we get this going in the right direction. Thread on one of your swivel hooks. This is not easy to show you, but this is get the idea, okay? Now, thread your ends back through that strap adjuster. Hey, that is one snug fit. I actually had to use the forceps to pull that in. That is not going to go anywhere. and the irregularities of the ostrich leather is not adding any assistance. All right, so we got the slide on. We got one swivel. Now we've got the next swivel. I'm going to fold that over a little over 2 inches on this one. Okay, and now I'm going to punch 2 holes. This end obviously isn't going anywhere because it can't get pulled very easily through the slider. This, on the other hand, the only thing holding this swivel hook on will be these rivets. So I'm going to go ahead and put 2. Some might say you put 1 on one and 2 on the other. Looks kind of funny. Technically, this is on the inside. You aren't going to see it. So it's personal preference. I like it this way for mine. Gives me a little more strap length by just having less fold over on this end. So I'm going to punch holes, install rivets, install my end, and I will be right back with the finished product. Okay, you can see here are some completed Navigator bags. And this is more leather. This is a nice big chunky magnetic snap using the O-rings. This is the bag we just completed. Magnetic snap, button on the outside. You certainly can hide your button. The ostrich leather was a little on the thick side. Okay. The thicker your vinyl, the less precise your corners will be. So now here is one that I have a turn lock on. Okay, just like that. And it's an over the edge. So it obviously has a different installation process, but this was an early prototype, but you get the idea. This is just, I'm showing you the different front flap closure option. And this is also more a leather with a bigger D-ring option. Okay, so you get the idea. There's plenty of options to personalize, individualize your creativity. Have fun with it, and thank you for joining me.